Hi, this is Wishup, and this is your January teacup reading for the 2019 first quarter forecast. So I have three actually different styles of teacup to use, and this is the one for January. This is by Alfred Meekin from the early 20th century. It's called The Cup of Knowledge. What's interesting about it is you can see inside it's got little playing cards. So instead of just reading sort of the typical maybe symbols, you also have these playing cards underneath. And I've counted them all up, and there really are 53 cards. The Joker is at the very bottom. Let's see if there's anything else. No, I guess let's just kind of get into it. It's a very sweet teacup. You know, it's cute little marigold on there and the gilding, but I'm moving these grounds a little bit as I do that. So anyway, let's get into the cup. I have a little, I'm going to have to change the inside of the cup, and I have this toothpick because I'm going to have to maybe scour away some of these heavy spots so that we can actually see the card that's underneath. So the first thing I notice is there are some clumps down in the bottom. Traditional teacup reading says that these can be problem areas, but they also tend to be distant from you. So these could be like gathering storms that you may have some ability to steer away from, so to speak. So one thing I'm going to notice is that I see, let's see if I can get this in focus. I see this little section down here. It's not in any card at all, or, you know, it's not hitting a card. It's just kind of on its own. And then we have this one, this section that's kind of heavy, which is the King of Clubs. We have a little bit here on the Three of Diamonds. So, and then we've got this section here, which is somewhat close, you know, it's sort of edging toward the rim, which is closer to you. So what I would see from the bottom of the cup is that there may be some issues with collaboration in the workplace that you may end up taking home with you. So it'll be a situation where, I mean, I see, because we've got this sort of lone clump and it's not on any card, but it's sort of by the Joker. I feel like it's a bit of a wild card, so that the circumstances that we're talking about may not be true yet. I'm sorry, I'm hand holding the phone, so it's going to be like all wobbly, but I feel like there are circumstances close to you dealing with issues of maybe a work team or some collaborative team you're on, and there's a bit of a wild card situation that's going to come up that's going to impact that collaboration. And in order to figure that out, there's going to be some decisive change is going to have to happen. And somebody is going to have to take the lead to make it happen. Somebody is going to have to take an authority to make it happen. So even if you're in a team collaboration and everybody's a peer, there's a point at which, just to make things work, somebody is going to have to step up into a leadership position, even if it's just like a thought leadership position, in order to initiate a solution. So if you're in a situation and you really like the fact that it's very collaborative and we work together, but a situation comes up and we're also busy trying to be egalitarian and trying not to climb over each other, that we're not actually making a decision, it might be useful for someone to step forward and make a call. So that can be, you know, those kind of dynamics can be awkward. And it looks like you're taking a little bit of that stress home with you. So it looks like the quicker that situation is kind of figured out, probably the better it will be. If we look sort of toward the past of this cup, over here, right, we've got, what have we got here? We've got this Four of Clubs going into this Queen of Clubs. she's a little bit marked up, but really there's sort of more action around this Ace of Spades, which sort of to me, I'm sort of looking through the viewfinder, but also looking at the cup. As I'm seeing the Ace of Spades connected to this Ten of Spades, I'm seeing a history and a bit of a tangled history. Like you can think of a Ten of Spades as sort of like an old battlefield, and this is a person, a survivor, walking out of an old battlefield, so to speak. So the idea is that you might have survived a difficult circumstance in the past. And I mean, most people have all sorts of different difficult circumstances in the past. Here, I'm going to uncover this a little bit so I can see it better. Okay, it is the Ace of Hearts. I thought it was. Okay, so connected to these two here is this thing at the Ace of Hearts. So we have the Ace of Hearts and the Ace of Spades sort of next to each other. And if you think about those shapes, they are sort of the reverse of each other, like the yin and yang a little bit. So we have this past history which has been checkered. And now we need to head forward. And we may feel like a sole survivor or like a lone wolf. And so when someone comes with an offer of collaboration or of partnership, we could feel very gun shy about that because of what we've been through. So it looks like this offer might have come up in the recent past or might be something that you're dealing with right now. The cup, the handle will tend to be like our now. Let me keep giving this a spin, and I'm going to have to get in here with my little toothpick so you can see. So here's my Three of Hearts. And my Three of Hearts is plainly involved. The other cards, which are really, really involved, and maybe I'll just scratch them off now so we can see them, is this whole line here, which looks like the Nine of Clubs and the King of Spades. There we go. And the Ten of Clubs. Okay, so yeah, so we really have this, we have this kind of notion that there's an offer coming forward, and it may be an offer in the workplace or an offer to develop something. And there is the idea that making this decision to rule something in is going to rule something else out. But you're going to have to join into another collaboration. It's like, imagine that you came out of one army and it was terrible. It was an absolutely awful circumstance, a situation. It was just a wholesale bloodbath, metaphorically speaking. And now you gain a new offer, an offer of new collaboration, an offer of new responsibility. But you're thinking, is this the same old kind of organization that I already got out of and that I was already a part of? And that's interesting, because if I connect it to the bottom of the cup, I'm wondering if you may be feeling a little hesitant about leadership. That you were in a position perhaps where leadership led to really bad outcomes, or you feel like the really bad outcomes that you suffered when you were just one of the many can be laid at the feet of leadership. And now you're offered a chance, possibly in another organization with another group of people, to join in, and it looks good, but you're afraid to take leadership because you've seen what leadership can do, and you associate leadership somehow with these corrupt and sort of dangerous things, these things that are unwholesome and bad for you. I sort of see, it's interesting because what I see, and again, this is sort of difficult because other people will not see the same thing. if you look next to this Queen of Hearts card, there's a clump of tea leaves. And so I see sort of a sideways sun. So it's like half a sun symbol, like the circle with the dot in it, or half an eye, so to speak. But it also looks to me like maybe a Native American symbol for the lizard, like a lizard that is a fire lizard, like a salamander that's crawling out of the fire. And they used to think that salamanders were made of fire, even though they're amphibians. They breathe air in, they can live underwater, because they would find them crawling out of logs when they would burn them. And it was because the salamanders had gone to hide where it was warm, and then they would come out when things got too hot. But the idea is that you have come through a trial by fire, and it's led you in this month of January to be very jaded about the prospect of leadership. So even though you have an offer with good prospects, and I see something really being offered to you that looks good, and the people offering it to you look to me, just from the shapes I see, to be upright. You have a lot of confidence in the good intentions, the good goals of this opportunity. And yet, because of what you've been through, you think the whole structure is kind of inherently corrupt in a way. Like, how can I possibly be a leader when all leaders are bad? So because of what you've been through, it's really colored the way that you look at the whole notion, the whole idea. And it means that you don't want to take leadership because you think it's kind of an inherently corrupt thing. But I look here at the King of Hearts, and I sort of say that if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? It doesn't mean that you're a perfect person and that you'll do perfect things, but you ought to at least know yourself well enough to be able to trust yourself. And that the idea of the things that came before, we've got this 9 of spades, but it's incompletely covered by the leaves. The things that came before don't have to haunt you now. You can find a situation with this 6 of Hearts that's more reciprocal. And it's sort of like distrusting the position is a way just to take out the complexity, right? Because you just go, well, all leaders are bad, all leaders are corrupt, all heads of organizations like this stink. And therefore you just take out the options for yourself of ever having to figure out how to navigate that complexity. But you also take out the potential that you have to be really good at it. You could be good, maybe imperfect, but people could be, yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this leader. Not perfect, but way better than many others I've had. And really, if you don't do it, I know this sounds kind of threatening, but if you don't do it, I sort of feel like someone else is going to jump into the breach that you're not going to like as much. When you opt out of leadership, it's not that leadership won't happen. It's just that it's going to happen by people who you don't know as well as yourself and who you may not trust as well as yourself. So think about whether or not there is a way to make peace with a higher ranking position, with the use of power and authority, and also with the sense that you don't have to be perfect at it. You're allowed to say you're wrong. You should certainly be learning and taking advice from the people you're working with. That's part of what good leadership is all about. But that maybe there's a way that you would fulfill more of your potential if you could fight your way through the battlegrounds of your past, where the idea of leadership is involved. Yeah, I think that's what I see. Hope you've enjoyed this tea leaf reading. I've got more It's part of a mix and match oracle set, which hopefully you will enjoy. And until the next time, rock on with your bad selves.